Most people think a dime is nothing. Just 10 cents. Something you toss in a jar, drop on the ground, or spend without a second thought. But hidden inside this small silver-colored coin is a world that most people never notice, a world where tiny details can turn something ordinary into something collectors are willing to pay serious money for. If you have a Roosevelt dime in your hand right now, stop for a second and really look at it, because what you're about to hear might completely change the way you see everyday pocket change forever. If you have this coin sitting in your pocket, your drawer, or even inside an old jar of change, you might be holding something that could completely change your life. Because today's story is not just about a coin. It's about a tiny piece of metal that looks ordinary, but is believed by collectors to be worth up to $80,000 in the right condition, under the right circumstances, at the right auction. And the most shocking part: most people don't even realize they have it. They spend it without a second thought. They drop it in vending machines. They toss it in tips. And just like that, life-changing money disappears in seconds. This is the story of the 2021 Roosevelt Dime, a modern coin minted by the US Mint that has quietly become one of the most talked about modern coins among collectors. But why? Why would something so small, so recent, and so common suddenly attract attention from collectors willing to pay thousands, even tens of thousands? To understand that, you need to slow down and look closer at what most people ignore every single day. The Roosevelt Dime has been around since 1946, created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his death. It became one of the most stable and widely circulated coins in American history. For decades, it barely changed. Same size, same design, same purpose. But in 2021, something unusual happened in the world of coin minting. A new batch of Roosevelt Dimes was released from the Philadelphia Mint, marked with a small P mint mark. To the average person, nothing special. Just another dime in circulation. But collectors began noticing something strange. Certain 2021 P dimes appeared different under magnification. Not dramatically different at first glance, but enough to raise questions among numismatists, people who study coins deeply. Some showed sharper details in the torch flames. Others had unusual strike characteristics. A few seemed to show doubling effect in specific areas of the lettering. And when coins like this start appearing in circulation, even in small numbers, the collecting world pays attention immediately. Because in numismatics, rarity is everything. Not gold content. Not age. But mistakes, variations, and scarcity. And that's where things start getting interesting. The 2021 P dime belongs to a category of modern US coins that were struck during a period of high production demand, when the US economy and circulation needs were shifting rapidly. Coins were being produced in massive quantities, sometimes under intense pressure to keep up with demand. And when production moves fast, mistakes happen. Sometimes a coin is struck slightly off-center. Sometimes the die used to imprint the design begins to wear in unusual ways. And sometimes, just sometimes, a rare error escapes quality control entirely. That's when a normal-looking coin transforms into something collectors call special. But here's where the story becomes even more intense. Because not every 2021 P dime is valuable. In fact, almost all of them are worth exactly 10 cents. The challenge is identifying the rare ones, the ones with subtle variations that only trained eyes or professional grading services can confirm. And that's why stories started spreading online, videos, posts, claims of people finding 2021 P dimes worth thousands of dollars. Some even claim prices reaching $10,000, $25,000, and in extreme cases, up to $80,000 depending on condition, rarity, and grading results. Now, is every claim accurate? Not always. The coin market is full of excitement, exaggeration, and viral misinformation. But what is true is this. Certain rare era versions and high-grade examples of modern Roosevelt dimes can reach surprisingly high auction values when certified and verified by major grading authorities. And that brings us to the real question you should be asking right now. What exactly makes a 2021 P dime valuable enough that collectors would pay life-changing money for it? The answer lies in three things: condition, rarity, and verification. Condition means how perfect the coin is. A coin that looks untouched, sharp, and flawless under magnification is far more valuable than one scratched or worn. Rarity means how few examples exist with that same feature or error. And verification means professional grading. Without it, even a rare coin can be dismissed as ordinary. This is why experienced collectors never rely on guesswork. They inspect, compare, and sometimes send coins to grading companies that specialize in authenticating US coinage. Because in the world of coins, one small detail can mean the difference between 10 cents and tens of thousands of dollars. And the 2021 P dime sits right in that dangerous, exciting space where ordinary meets extraordinary. A coin millions have handled, but only a few might truly understand. And somewhere out there right now, in a pocket, in a coin jar, or mixed into everyday change. If you have a 1981 Roosevelt Dime sitting in your pocket right now, stop for a moment, because what looks like just 10 cents could actually be something collectors have been quietly chasing for years. Most people see a dime and think nothing of it. It gets spent on coffee, dropped in parking meters, or forgotten in old jars without a second thought. But in the world of coin collecting, even the most ordinary-looking coins can sometimes hide surprising value, history, and rare variations that completely change their story. And the 1981 Roosevelt Dime is one of those coins that deserves a closer look. This coin was minted in 1981 at the US Mint, specifically at the Denver Mint, which is why it carries the small D mint mark. It belongs to the long-running Roosevelt Dime series, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the most influential leaders in American history. By 1981, the Roosevelt Dime was already a familiar part of everyday American life. Millions were produced, and it was used heavily in circulation. Nothing about it seemed rare at the time. In fact, it was designed to be the opposite of rare, easy to produce, easy to circulate, and easy to replace. But here's where things get interesting. Even though billions of 1981 dimes were minted, not all coins survived the same way. Some remain in perfect condition, untouched by decades of wear. Others contain small minting variations that collectors call errors or high-grade strikes, and those are the ones that start to gain attention. Because in coin collecting, it is not just about age. It is about condition, rarity, and demand. A 1981 D dime in normal circulated condition is still worth just 10 cents. Nothing special on the surface. But if that same coin is found in near-perfect condition, what collectors call mint state, its value can change dramatically depending on its grade and appeal. Some examples graded in extremely high condition by professional services like the Professional Coin Grading Service or Numismatic Guarantee Company can sell for significantly more than face value, especially if they show strong strike quality, full details, and no signs of circulation. Now let's go deeper into why this coin has become interesting for collectors. The early 1980s were a transitional period for US coin production. The economy was changing, inflation was high, and the demand for coins in circulation increased. The mint had to produce large quantities quickly, which sometimes led to minor variations in striking quality. That means some 1981 D dimes may show slight differences in detail, like sharper touch lines, stronger facial features of Roosevelt, or cleaner reading on the edges. To an untrained eye, these differences are almost invisible. But to collectors, they can be the difference between a common coin and a desirable one. Another reason collectors pay attention to this coin is its condition rarity. While millions were minted, very few survived in pristine, untouched condition. Coins are meant to circulate, and circulation naturally causes scratches, wear, and fading. So when a 1981 D dime appears in flawless condition, it becomes statistically rare even if the original mintage was huge. And that is where value begins to build. Not because the coin is made of silver or gold, but because it represents something harder to find, perfection preserved over time. Some collectors also look for mint errors in this year, although they are not extremely common for the 1981 D dime. This can include misaligned strikes, off-center impressions, or minor die cracks. While most of these errors are not extremely valuable on their own, certain combinations of high-grade and unusual characteristics can attract strong collector interest. But here is the truth most people miss. The real value of a coin like this is not in hype. It is in verification. Because without proper grading and authentication, even a rare-looking coin can be treated as ordinary. That is why serious collectors rely on expert grading systems like PCGS and NGC to confirm condition and authenticity before assigning value. And this is exactly why the 1981 Roosevelt Dime continues to appear in collector discussions today. Not because every example is valuable, but because a few exceptional ones can stand out just enough to make people take a second look at their spare change. And that brings us to the most exciting thought of all. Right now, somewhere in an old coin jar, a forgotten drawer, or even inside everyday pocket change, there could still be a 1981 dime sitting unnoticed, waiting for someone to recognize what it really is. Most will stay worth 10 cents forever. But a few, just a few, could tell a much more interesting story. And if you want, I can continue this into part 2 where I break down exact era types, how to check your 1981 dime step by step, and the specific signs collectors look for before paying high prices. If you have a 1993 Roosevelt Dime sitting in your pocket right now, you might want to pay close attention, because what looks like an ordinary 10-cent coin could actually be hiding a surprising story that most people never hear. At first glance, nothing about it seems special. It's small, it's simple, and it probably passed through thousands of hands without anyone even noticing it. It was made in massive numbers in 1993 at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the main production facilities in the United States coin system. Back then, millions of dimes were being produced every single day, rushing into circulation, designed for one purpose only: everyday use. Coffee shops, vending machines, parking meters, pocket change, that's the life most of these coins were destined for. And because of that, almost everyone assumes a 1993 dime is completely worthless beyond its face value. Just 10 cents. Nothing more. But here's where things start to get interesting, and where most people make a huge mistake. Because in the world of coin collecting, value is not always about age. It's not even about how many were made. Sometimes, it's about what went wrong during production, or what went exceptionally right. And that's exactly why collectors still keep an eye on coins like the 1993 Roosevelt Dime. Now imagine this for a moment. A coin is being struck at high speed in a minting press. Thousands of coins every minute. Metal sheets are being punched, designs are being stamped, and coins are flying out into trays before being shipped across the country. In that kind of environment, perfection is the goal, but perfection is not always what happens. Sometimes the machine shifts slightly. Sometimes the die starts to wear down. Sometimes a small detail gets missed by quality control. And when that happens, something ordinary can turn into something collectible. That is where error coins are born. The 1993 dime has a few types of errors and conditions that collectors watch for carefully. One of the most talked about features is strike quality. A weak strike means part of the design didn't fully imprint. On Roosevelt dimes, collectors especially look at the torch on the back. If the lines on the torch bands are sharp and fully separated, that coin is considered much more desirable. This is known among collectors as a strong strike or full detail example. Then there's the condition factor. A 1993 dime that has never been used in circulation, one that still looks like it just came off the minting press, can be significantly more appealing to collectors. Coins like these are often submitted for grading, where experts evaluate their quality under high magnification. But here's where excitement usually builds online, and sometimes gets exaggerated. You may hear claims that a 1993 dime is worth hundreds, thousands, or even more. The truth is more grounded, but still interesting when you understand the system. Most circulated 1993 dimes are only worth face value. Even uncirculated examples might sell for a small premium depending on condition. But in rare cases, coins that are exceptionally high grade, or that show unusual minting characteristics, can sell for higher amounts to collectors who specialize in modern US coinage. And that's the key word here, rare cases. Because rarity in coins doesn't always mean old. It means difficult to find in that specific condition or with that specific feature. Think about it like this. Millions of identical coins were made in 1993. But how many still exist in perfect, untouched condition after decades of handling, vending machines, pockets, and circulation. That number gets smaller every year. And that's why collectors still search through rolls of coins even today. Not because they expect every coin to be valuable, but because they only need to find one unusual example to make the search worth it. Now let's talk about errors again, because this is where the real excitement usually comes in. Some 1993 P dimes may show minor minting imperfections such as slight doubling in lettering, small off-center strikes, or unusual surface marks caused during production. Most of these do not automatically create high value, but they do make a coin more interesting to collectors who specialize in error varieties. However, the most valuable coins are always the ones that are both rare and visually dramatic, meaning the error is obvious and confirmed by grading services. Without that confirmation, even unusual coins usually remain in the low-value category. Still, the possibility is what keeps collectors engaged. Because every coin tells a hidden story. And the 1993 P Roosevelt Dime is part of that story, quiet, overlooked, and sitting in circulation for decades without most people ever giving it a second look. Now imagine someone finds one in perfect condition. Shiny surfaces. Strong details. Nowhere. It gets submitted for grading. Encased in a protective holder. And suddenly, what was once just 10 cents becomes a collectible piece that someone somewhere is willing to pay attention to. Not because it changed, but because someone finally looked closely enough to understand what they were holding. That's the real secret behind coin collecting. It's not about treasure hiding in plain sight every time. It's about knowledge. Knowing what to look for. Knowing what matters. And knowing that sometimes, the smallest object in your pocket can carry the biggest curiosity. So the next time you see a 1993 P dime, don't rush past it. Take a second. Look closer. Because while most will always remain just 10 cents, a few might have a story that most people completely miss.